So what are we waiting for? So let's in as much as government has a role to play, let's focus on what and how we can help entrepreneurial capitalism to have that greed. I call it the capitalist greed. It's a pure greed. Let it get into the market and help us fix things, because I don't think government has any capacity to do anything. Because Nigeria is really very poor for the government to function.
So the truth is, whatever problems we have today, and we've seen even across the world, that government cannot solve our problems, right? Even in the first world countries, government isn't the only one solving their problems. You need a broader base of stakeholders working together, collaborating to address the problems, and you can be doing something in your own space to fix it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'll give an example here, looking at United States. The fact is, if you look at their space industry, who is leading the space now? Tesla is leading. Look at their electric vehicle industry. Who is leading? The problem we have in Nigeria is that we have so many think tanks instead of do tanks. And because we have think tanks, everyone is postulating theories, saying government. Using government is just a way for us to avoid getting things done. And I want us to change that mindset. Let's get our hands dirty. Let young people forget about government and just do the little they can do. If they do that, government will come. Let me give an example here. I have had an opportunity where government, in short, I wish I can share my slide. The Nigerian government wrote to us about agricultural business, ZEMVOS, saying we saw what people are doing. How can we help you? They said they have money from World Bank on that project. I've not even had time to reply. So that is the way it is. Government is looking for people that will start something, whether it's a refinery, whether it's a renewable energy project, whether it's whatever, and government will find a way to support it because government doesn't have the resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I know you lost me for a second, but I could hear everyone clearly. Apologies, I've changed my network now. I think that was a really excellent phrase you used, entrepreneurial capitalism. And you mentioned that across what Flutterwave had done, what Paystack had done. We're seeing that a lot in the fintech industry. And I think the onus is on us as an energy sector to think about how to translate that into our own applications. It's not all dependent on just the huge infrastructure investment or development. Yes, you need investment, and you can get that anywhere else besides the government. And for everyone sitting in this room, I know I may not be able to see everyone's faces, but you surely will have ideas that you want to take away. But I would say just collaborate with people. Mervyn talked about collaboration, and it's not just the big businesses that can do this. It has to start from scratch. We've seen that Nigeria requires all of these things to start from the base and then scale up, and we need to run with that. Don't feel you have to sit on your hands. So thank you so much. That leads very nicely.
Can I add something to that point?
Yes, please, go ahead.
So, I mean, we've talked about it from an entrepreneur, we need to do this for the country, Prof has talked about entrepreneurial greed. And I'll make the argument that it's also for us even a matter of survival, right? So we're SPE, we're in the petroleum industry. But the petroleum industry, the world is looking at peak oil. So for instance, McKinsey predicts that we're going to hit peak oil by 2029. Many scenarios from BP and Shell predict that we'll hit peak oil, by sometime in the 2030s. But what that means for almost everybody in this room, because many of us are going to be working up till the 2040s and maybe possibly even the 2050s. What that means for us is that we are in an industry that is shrinking. BP's exploration team went from 700 people to 100 people in a few years. So the exploration team, 700, went to 100. If you look at Imperial College, they're stopping two of their most popular petroleum courses. And so the signs are on the wall for us. So it's not just about, we need to do this for Nigeria. We need to do it for ourselves. We need to do it for our careers, because we're going to end up at a point where we end up being obsolete. If we don't if we don't jump in right now on the energy transition, we're going to get to a point where we are left, people who were working in the Railway Corporation of Nigeria, in the early 90s, where your industry has ground to a halt, and then you have no competence, you have nowhere else that your career can go. So really, we're at the beginning and we need to start thinking critically about our careers and how we are going to shape our careers in such a way that we can take advantage of the energy transition.
Yeah, I think that was a very valid point. And it's the reason we as young professionals are in here, we're talking about the energy mix, is for you to see the other opportunities. Many people here probably started out with petroleum engineering because that's one of the main offerings you have at the university. But you can start even from where you are, thinking about what other ways you can start learning from so that your skills can match up with demand, not just waiting for when something is there and then you have to start reskilling. There's so many transferable skills that we have in oil and gas that for me, even in research, and for many people that I'm aware of, some people here in this room, we're translating some of the information we have from oil and gas into other industries and seeing how we can bring that back into oil and gas. And like Osamen rightly put it, BP has re-strategized all the things that they do. Even this regulatory body and research institute, the DNV, they have, if people are aware, last year they took out oil and gas from their name and just made it DNV Energy. You need to start thinking and reframing your thoughts. And this is a platform where we can share ideas. You can go out of here, talk to people, see areas where you can start thinking outside the box and reskilling, finding out translatable information or skills and knowledge that you can use to help Nigeria move forward. We're not waiting for something to happen. We have to make it happen. I'll go on to the next question. And this is a really interesting one because it's really talking about the time frame. We talk about the energy industry. Someone has asked this so cleverly, saying, with our abundant gas resources, and I will add other energy resources, what realistic time frame do you think will help us drive a full switch to predominantly gas exploration or predominantly other energy sectors? What are your thoughts on it? And I'm not going to limit this to one person. Everyone on the panel, I would like for you all to give your 2 cents to it.
I think it's tricky to put a time frame to it, right? But the thing is, you might put a time frame, and if no actions are happening, the right actions, bold actions, something that is, you're creating implementable policies. Today, we have some policies in the country, but they're not implementable. So whether you put a time frame and you don't do anything about it, you're not going to get there. It's the same thing we had with the Vision 2020, right? We had that thing there. We need to get here by 2020, and we're still not there. So if we're not putting in the actions, like taking the right steps, we will not get it. So I think the time frame question really isn't something we should be talking about. We should be doing.
Yeah, and I love that so much. Because you use that phrase, we should be implementing implementable actions. Professor Kekwe talked about this earlier when he said that we usually just have think tanks rather than do tanks. And I would like to hear a little bit more about that on this matter.
Yeah, so I think the key thing, just like my co-panelist, she said it all. Nigeria is very good in publishing papers at the end of the day when we actually know that we are not going to follow through. Recall vividly a former governor in my state, in Abia State. Every week you will have an MOU signed. So I was counting the total number of MOUs going to the government website. At the end of the 8 years, nothing happened. So the destination was sign an MOU, get a press conference, get on the TV. That was actually the job. Once the MOU was signed with some Chinese, he has executed that project. So nothing. So the thing here is we need to have leadership that is a little bit pragmatic. And that is actually when you can say, if this guy doesn't get his job done, we are going to look for somebody who can get a job done. But that is based on if we are making decisions on competence and merit. Is that a question where you have a young girl, she has graduated from University of Benin, there is a graduate teaching assistantship available for the best student. But because she's from maybe from Southwest, he says she's not from South, she cannot be given that job. That's what is happening in Nigerian universities now. So we are not using our best. And that is the difficulty, that there is no consequence because you are representing your tribe. and nothing will happen to you because your tribe has to be represented. I've called it communal diminishing returns, where 10 students are competing for excellence. Unfortunately, 5 are from one tribe. The Nigeria will still pick only 1 out of the 5 and go to the 6th person from another tribe, so that you can balance whatever they call it, character, is it federal character? How are you going to motivate the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th that they passed? What happened? The person said, it doesn't really matter to be great, to work hard. All I just need to do is look for where my own tribe lineage will work for me. And that's how Nigeria started dropping. And we cannot reverse our paralysis until we go into where we have fair competition. I mean, competition is not bad. I remember those days when in football, you want to be the best graduate student, you have to pay for it, because there was pride when the vice chancellor calls the university scholar for this year, Ndubisi Ekekwe. I know I feel so good, because everyone would know the village boy just came out. But imagine if they said he's not from the right tribe. So that's why these projects are not happening. And just like Bevin said, Nigeria has not shown the world that he can put a date on anything and get it done. And because of that, no one believes anything that comes from government. And that is also the point. If the industry or the association or the lobby group will begin to build products, services, this plan within and outside the domain of government. So we say, let the oil majors come together and say, let's go and help Aba. And let's build a business for the oil majors and for the members. Let's leave government out of it. It's possible. As a student in Futo, I was in Awaza gas station for NNPC, Nigeria Gas Company. We are pumping gas to ceramics. That is a business that was huge. So we need to think about what private sector can do and not necessarily what government can do. That's what I would just say there. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That was a really, really thought-provoking perspective to it. You talked about communal diminishing returns, and I really like how you put that, because it's a way for us to think about how we as people should not let that stop you from competing or stop you from engaging, because competition has to start from engaging. First of all, if you do things within your university, if you do things as a young professional, these are things that their attitudes or their methods of thinking that you will take on into your career and in the business world as a whole. And the energy sector can sure benefit from that, especially in Nigeria. I would like to ask Engineer Saheed his thoughts on this, because when we talked, he had talked about all of the different projects that have been signed. And at first I was going to use this as more like a signpost for this question, but what exactly do you think? You talked about all of those really nice projects that the Nigerian government has, and what's your take on it?
Okay, I personally like to see the cup as half full rather than half empty. And why I said that is because it could be that we have actually turned the corner from initiative paralysis to doing something, at least, no matter how small it is. For instance, the government has a policy of solar power for 5 million homes, but they didn't just wait. They started with a few thousand homes with MPHDC, and now they want to graduate to the big one after that. The Train 7 has been on the drawing board right from the 90s. The moment we were commissioning Train 1, 2, 3, we had ambition of going to Train 8. But we got to Train 6 and we deadlocked. It was there for 15 years until last year when the FID was signed. So, and a lot of projects like that have started. At least they've gone beyond being on the paper to being executed. The AKK pipeline. People were saying if it were to be based on economics alone, AKK pipeline shouldn't have been started, because we don't have the industries that will use those gas on ground as of today. But it's a catch-22. If industry will not come because there is no gas availability, the infrastructure investors will not invest because there is no source, there is no off-taker for his gas if he invests in the infrastructure. So, but that's where government has to be an enabler for the industry as well. And OPTC is trying within the ambit of the law. OPTC is the association of the IOCs, all the oil and gas producers, international companies altogether, about 28 of them. But you know, there is antitrust law as well. There is a limit to what they can collaborate before it will look as if they are doing something illegal as well. So there are some, do I say, ray of hope, and trying to put all these projects together to woo more investors. That's what the essence of the Decade of Gas Declaration wanted to do. So we have started all this. It has all been in the planning for a long time, but now we have started doing something. Can you please, investors, come and help us in this area? And those areas that we want investors have also been itemized, have been identified, both in the area of renewable energy and in the area of gas-powered stations and gas infrastructure. So let's just have faith. Hopefully the government will continue to do their work as they should, and galvanize all the investors together. The next decade is going to be exciting for engineers and for innovators who have value to add to the system. It's all there. Solar system, you can invest with a few million. You can do a solar mini grid, for instance. And also we talk about energy industry collaboration between government and the industry and the community as well. I give an example of what is happening in Bonny, for instance. The Bonny Utility Company is the company that is supplying power and water to the community on the Bonny Island, for instance. But that power they are supplying to the community, and they are metered. They pay for the power. Maybe cheaper than the normal power unit rate, but they pay for it. And the power is supplied by the industries, by the Joint Industry Committee, which is all the big companies, the Mobil, the Nigeria LNG, and the Shell that are on the island. So, and that power is 24-hour supply of power. It's only what I mean. I can't even remember when there will be no power, because the company is running 24/7, so the power is also supplied 24/7. So I think there is hope somewhere.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting perspective from it. And you kept saying this catch-22, and to be honest, this is the case every speaker has tried to make, that we need to go past that gridlock. It's like you think about that bottleneck in this whole system. Are we thinking about the energy system as just the exploration and generation? Or are we thinking about the utilities working in collaboration and in tandem with what we as maybe exploration experts or anyone in research or in production, project development? One thing I would like to ask is for Osemen's take on this. When you think in terms of projects to deliver, because it's not just about setting up a project ends when you have executed and when you have delivered. So where does that come in the Nigerian context? We have so many initiatives that start, but never go past a certain point. Do you assume that there is more like a worm, for want of a better word, that stops this from happening? What's your take on it?
So, I mean, I've been a project manager as part of my career, and it's different things, right? On one hand, there's the competence required to execute a project, but then there's also very Nigerian specific barriers to executing projects. So for instance, just a classic example, and we all know this, the government subsidizes oil and gas in many ways. It subsidizes the industry. One, they are able to access dollars at official central bank rates in a way that other industries cannot. Petrol and kerosene are kind of subsidized. Diesel is no longer subsidized. But if you wanted to import a solar panel into Nigeria, you'd probably have to get your dollars on the black market. So that's already like a 30%, 40% cost of capital. You would have to pay import duties and import tariffs, and then your stuff might get stuck in the port for God knows how long, with everything that's happening. By the time you actually start to put a shovel in the ground to start building anything, you've already had to overcome so many different barriers, and it's enough to make people give up. You're trying to do a project in a community, and they're, in different cultures, they have different names for it. In Yoruba, people say it's Omonile. In Port Harcourt, they'll say it's matching ground. You have to come and pay all these things. All of these barriers that they put in the way of people who are trying to execute is what, kind of derails projects. And then by the time you start putting in the competence of people doing the project as well, so many people, for many of us in Nigeria, many of these projects you might be doing for the first time. You don't necessarily have the experience that they have in other parts of the world. Do you want to go and import expatriates? Probably not. Expatriates are expensive. So you're going to rely on Nigerian talent to do that. And it speaks to what Mervyn was saying earlier about we need to build the talent in country. If you build something, you need to have people on ground who can operate it and maintain it. So, all these factors come into play. By the time you start to execute your project, or before you even start to execute your project, being able to think ahead for all these risks and to plan to mitigate them, and then you start building. So, yeah, from a project management point of view, you need all sorts of things. You need the political will, because in many places, it's the political will that kind of pushes some of these things to go ahead. People have talked about, for instance, the fintech industry, and Flutterwave is doing this, and they're all doing this. It's different. It's one thing to build software. It's another thing to put a pipeline in the ground. You can build software on your computer, right? You can sit down and you can code. The only thing you're going to need is maybe electricity. You turn on your generator. To build a pipeline, you need to fabricate steel. So I think there are two different things. It's one thing to do fintech. It's another thing to do hardware infrastructure projects on ground. And we need to be able to make that distinction clear.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point. For some people sitting in here, you've probably never even thought about projects in terms of the energy space. And two of our key panelists here are really in that line. And I think, I would say myself included, and it's one thing for us to think, when we think about projects, though they are the drivers of change. And if we think in the Nigerian context, it's delivering on projects that matters. And we have to start thinking in terms of, all right, if we think about solar, if we think about wind, if we think about the hydropower, we think about the different energy vectors, how can we make sure I'm positioned? How can I make sure myself, my friends, my colleagues are positioned in a way that we're building our competencies ready for the next challenge and delivering in Nigeria? I know the easiest way is to think, I don't have a job yet, or I don't have that job yet, but you can start upskilling yourself, doing whatever it means, getting involved in SPE initiatives that are made for you. And we can take this forward. I'm not going to dwell on the next question that follows that on Solar Power Niger project, because it's more like the same thing. We talk about so many initiatives, so many projects, and that will link me into a question to Mervyn. And you think about the Nigerian education system. Someone asked that it doesn't have the ability to develop the necessary potentials. How do you think that this potential, that's everyone, the talent in this room, how do you think they will be able to develop themselves beyond what's offered to them?
And I absolutely agree. that the educational system in the country today is faulty, right? And flawed. But as a matter of fact, we've heard already that it's our responsibility to be upskilled. Osebe said that, right? Clearly, you either just do it for your survival or, you just chill and go extinct. Like I always say to people, right? It's either you adapt or you die. It's as simple as that. So what are you going to do? Wait on the government, wait for the educational system to be changed? We've been talking about this for so many years already. I know clearly from when I even graduated that I said the system was flawed. Like that was like 10 years ago, like 11 years ago now. So, you can't wait for the government to fix that. You can't wait for the Ministry of Education to fix it. You just have to think about what you want in life, and how you get there. So sit down sometimes, think about your career and your skills today. Think about where you want to get. Think about what gaps you have and how you can fix those gaps or bridge it, and do whatever you have to do. There are so many opportunities, unfortunately, or fortunately for you, unfortunately for the government and the system, unfortunately for you, to upskill, to reskill, and to set yourself up for excellence and success in whatever careers that you're looking to pursue. You have Coursera, you have edX, you have a lot of things to do. You have all of these conversations happening that you can also leverage. You come in here, you have these conversations, you connect with people, you hear from them what they think you should be doing differently, and you take actions, right? So it's one thing to also hear, it's another thing to go ahead and do it. So it's you taking responsibility for yourself. In Schlumberger, in spite of the fact that we have all the systems, amazing systems to train and develop people. In fact, if you go into the energy industry or the oil industry, you will hear that Schlumberger is like the trainer, We have everything, but still, they tell us clearly, it's your responsibility. If you don't do what you have to do, you're on your own. It's as simple as that. So it's you figuring out what you want. You can't follow Oseme's step because Oseme has her own career goals and she knows where she's going, or she has what she wants to achieve. You think about where you want to go, what you want to achieve, and then take the right step. So explore workshops, explore online courses. If you have the money, go and take a course in a school, wherever you want to, you take it, So I left Schlumberger in 2014 to go and study in Imperial and to understand where the world was going with the energy transition. This was like 2014. And you see, we're talking about energy transition a lot now. But when I was going then, people were like, are you crazy? What are you going to do? Where is that going to be applied? Like, who is looking at that in Nigeria? But for me, it was like, I'm seeing where the world is going. I need to set myself up for, playing a part in that future. And I did what I had to do, even if it meant losing my job. Unfortunately, Schlumberger wouldn't let me leave. So I had to come back. But, you just need to do what you have to do. And it's you really just asking yourself those questions. What exactly do you want? What do you have to do to get to what you want, right?
Yeah, I really love that. Thank you for that perspective. And I would like other panelists.
Yeah. Okay, let me just come in there, if it's possible, Toyin, and just to note that the point that Oseme made.
Why they didn't give you
like Said is talking. Go ahead, sorry. Okay, Said, go ahead. I thought, sorry.
Sorry, Prof. Go ahead, please.
Oh,
I thought
okay.
I mute.
Okay, sorry about that. So what I'm saying here is that I think the whole construct, maybe it's easier to build software unlike building physical things. We understand that. That is a very, very valid point. But the key thing I am saying here is that the energy sector in Nigeria, the opportunity is not just about becoming a chemical, petroleum, electrical, mechanical. We have not brought financing innovations that can actually come through market system. It's like you go to Wall Street. They are the people that are actually pioneering most of the things you see in the oil sector, in Texas, in Oklahoma, in America. So Nigeria is not inventing that in Nigeria Stock Exchange. And that is the reason why everyone is seeing all this paralysis. So if imagine where we have energy economists, very brilliant young people that can now change what happens in the Delta because of the way they have orchestrated this thing called dollar and this thing called naira. We're not doing that. That is the reason why it looks extremely very, very difficult because we have not innovated on how this thing works. So I give you a very good example. Government does what they call government guarantee. If you build me 1 megawatt of power, I guarantee it. But you know one thing, when you finish building that megawatt, government doesn't have money to guarantee 10 megawatts. And because government cannot guarantee 10 megawatts, you can't scale. So the fact is this, how are you going to build a business system that depends on somebody who does not have the capacity to scale to guarantee you for you to scale? So that's the reason why nothing is working. I still believe that our opportunity goes back to how they did it in some countries like US. When they were having problem building pipelines, they have what they call eminent domain. Government makes it easy that somebody's land could be taken. I mean, Rockefeller and Co., Carnegie, they pioneered these things. That didn't come from government. They just told government, if you want us to build a railway track from New York City to Philadelphia, we need to go through people's lands. And because we are private entities, there is no way we can do that. Either you want us to build a railway track or not. Government said, we need a railway track, anyone that has a land there, eminent domain will work. And then they made it look like software, making it easy for these men now to build railway tracks. So it is just, I mean, I'm a Nigerian, so all of us are underperforming. So you cannot say they are not doing it because you are supposed to do it because you're a Nigerian also. So, but the point is this, there is really no excuse. If you go to Wall Street, my friend is the managing director of State Street in London. He's a Nigerian from Olu. I mean, I spoke with one in JP Morgan. He's a vice president. These guys are extremely brilliant people, creating financial products that are helping energy markets in America to work. But go to Nigerian Stock Exchange, no one has a product for the energy industry. And because you don't have that product, innovators at the point of execution do not have the alpha that will help them to unlock the playbook. You know, I like to talk about alpha. So, but let me just stop you there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Kekwe. I really love that perspective because it kind of is an anchor for everything that everyone here has said when it comes to building talent, when it comes to developing those who are within. And I would like to just add and expand on that a bit before we move on, or ask Engineer Saheed and Osemen's take on it. When you think in terms of energy, are you only focusing on petroleum or what you're exposed to? Mervyn talked so clearly about attending all these courses, and you need to speak to people. For me, I stepped out of energy at a point because it just didn't make sense. I didn't understand why you had to do this and nothing is really changing. And that's what led me onto the path of research, saying there's so much more out there in the world, and you need to start thinking about different things and how we can apply in different contexts. I'll say when you go from today, attend many more SPE conferences, go to other energy conferences, see what the world is discussing, and then you can think about, oh, there may be things that I send people messages on LinkedIn saying, your job title sounds interesting, tell me more about it. And this is what you need to start doing, because it goes beyond your syllabus from school. It goes beyond what they've put as you have your scheme of work or your syllabus for the semester. You have to go beyond that, saying, all right, if this is a syllabus, how does this apply in the real world? And you need to start thinking about how you position yourself. I would let Osemen or Engineer Saheed say anything in a few minutes, anything at all, as to the knowledge gaps or educational gaps.
Okay, I could start. And I think when we look at the oil and gas industry, I think it's also important for us to look at our career ancestors. Prof has talked a lot about Rockefeller and Carnegie. Rockefeller started out selling food. He was selling food, and he was selling food to the US Army during the Civil War. And it was from there that, during the World Wars, and it was from there that he started to build his empire. We look at Shell. So for instance, and then Rockefeller went on to build what we now know as ExxonMobil, or he's like the grandfather of what you call ExxonMobil. We look at Shell, like the name comes from seashells, literally. Marcus Samuel was selling seashells because they were considered decorative. So he would import shells from the East, from Asia, and sell them in Europe. And that was how he started his business. And because he had that whole shipping industry, by the time he came to start shipping oil, he already had like the fleet and the know-how. His children had the fleet and the know-how, and they transitioned into selling oil, which is, where we now have Shell. And so we should not be afraid, right, to take that leap, to say, okay, you know what, this is where I'm starting from. This is what I know. I'm a project engineer, or I'm a petroleum engineer, I'm a reservoir engineer. But then there are skills that are transferable. There's data analysis. If I'm doing project engineering, there's a lot happening in the agile space, which is how software companies build their products. So for us as project engineers, you probably learn the traditional way, which is you identify an opportunity, you design, you build, then you operate. But in software, it's actually identify, build, operate, identify, build, operate, and then they keep going round and round. So step out of your comfort zone, learn things, and say, okay, what am I curious about? I talked about really anchoring ourselves on the problem and then trying to say, where do our skills come in to solve it? Wherever you are right now in the oil and gas value chain, whether you are at the exploration phase or you're selling the oil and gas, there's something in your skill set that is applicable in the energy transition. Find it, explore it. Like Tosin has said, attend conferences, talk to people, meet up with people in LinkedIn. Oh, your job sounds interesting. And the thing is, you might not make that job transition now. It might not even be within the next 2 years. But in 5 years' time, in 10 years' time, you started to have conversations that allow you to then branch. You don't want to get to a point, like I mentioned earlier, where you're stuck in a career that there's no way forward. And this is something that someone told me a very tragic story here in the UK. I met someone and I was talking with him, and I told him I worked in the oil and gas industry. And he said, oh, he had a friend who was a geologist, who was a brilliant person, a brilliant geologist, schooled in the University of Oxford. And I was like, oh, that sounds fascinating. He said, yes, that the guy worked in the oil and gas industry in different countries. And then during one of the downswings the industry had, he lost his job. He had a massive mortgage to pay off. He couldn't get another job. And the man committed suicide. And I thought that was such a very tragic story to hear about. And he's like, yes, that, he's shocked to still see young people in the oil and gas industry, because as far as he was concerned, there were no more jobs in the oil and gas industry because everything was shrinking, which is what is happening here in Europe. So we want to make sure that we don't get to that point where we are stuck. We need to start thinking now about the skills we have, how we can transfer them. So I guess, I'll let Engineer Saeed talk a bit more as well.
Yeah, thank you, Semen. That was a really good perspective. Don't be afraid to see where and explore where your skills can come in. Engineer Saeed, do you have anything to say to us?
Okay, well, quite interesting. Shell actually is a trading company. It was Shell trading before we dabbled into oil and gas. And even when they started with oil, they started with oil for caulking of the boats. Because they found out that crude oil was good in sealing the hole in all those gigantic wooden boats. But all those are history now. It has metamorphosed into this mega IOC. But I also want to touch on the fact that our focus in SPE here is also to make sure we develop all our people into a round professional. There is a lot of things that are available to you as an SPE member to develop yourself, whichever field you find yourself, including renewables, including all sorts of engineering fields, financing, HSE, whatever field. And there is a lot of all those materials to members. And we have achieved that even for Nigerian, our Nigerian universities. Could you imagine a Nigerian university went to US and they won an award? It was due to what was available to them on SPE platform. I will just stop there. So your career is in your hand.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point. Thank you very much for letting everyone know the kind of resources that you get within SPE. And if at all you decide that there's something you want to do and you're not quite sure, speak to people, get people's perspectives, because it gives you some level of clarity. And we can definitely see that everyone is positioned in different areas. Even if you're working in a particular job right now, just as Osemen and Mervyn clearly said, anything could happen, but you need to be prepared. You need to be agile. You need to be able to transition and adapt to what's required or what's needed. And that I love the perspective that you all brought to this, because like Engineer Said very clearly said, and Osemen, that even where the companies where they're working, they started from something else. So as professionals, your career can morph into something that you never even dreamed of. When you think about maybe energy systems engineers, were they called that maybe 20 years ago? Perhaps not. If you think about people doing some maybe hydrogen energy, which is one of the interesting projects I'm working on now, about maybe 10 years ago, that wasn't even a thing. But now you've got like cities that are being powered and projects that are delivering to see, oh, how can we actually scale this up? So you're not required to know it all. Talk to people, explore, go to places, learn more things. Don't be afraid to read. Don't be afraid to not know. Just get engaged and keep on moving. And I would ask a last question. Apologies if we don't get to your question today. I'm not keeping a track of the additional ones because we had so many interesting ones that have come in and that are really nice. And one of the closing things that someone had asked before, and I would like all four of you to give your take on this. Someone asked, as young professionals, what can we do when we do not have capital? I know we've talked about the downstream digital solutions, the Tesla factor, the mini grids. We've talked about so many things, but I know there are people in here who are not waiting for jobs as such, but would like to maybe start off a spin-off thing. I can begin by saying within the research space, there's so much funding within, I'm in the UK at the moment, and there's just so much. There haven't been things that I've maybe applied for directly. Well, I speak to people and then they say, oh, we've got an interesting thing. You have a set of skills that I think will be useful. Why not come on board? And all through, it has been that way. And now it's something new that I've started. What do you think? I see so many spin-off companies and friends of friends and friends as well that are starting new initiatives. What do you think? What's your take on it? And what do you think young professionals can do when they don't have capital? Does anyone want to go first? I won't pick on anyone if there's anything in mind.
Okay, let me just come in there. Capital, it's a factor of production. And if you look into the typical factor of production right from the time of Adam Smith, classical economics, you'll see so many things, knowledge, we've just added knowledge, but we used to have entrepreneurship there. If you don't have capital and you have other factors of production or another factor of production, you are actually fine. Interestingly, just like you can have an idea, there's also a way somebody can have capital. The world is unbounded because of digital technologies. The world is unconstrained because of the internet. What that means is that even though you may be living in Port Harcourt, your capacity to be identified by somebody in Silicon Valley to be funded has actually scaled exponentially compared to where we were 20 years ago. So the whole nexus of the issue, I don't have capital, I always tell people, it's just maybe you don't really have a good idea. I push it because I've invested in 33 companies. I mean, I did one yesterday. Most likely I'll do another one next week. Say $50,000, it's not a lot of money. Write them. It was actually yesterday I realized that you can't even deposit more than $10,000 in your dorm account in Nigeria. So just to tell you how crazy things have become in the country, you know, that's when I knew that it's not possible anymore that you cannot, because we wanted to pay somebody to give an entrepreneur money, and we noticed the government said you can't pay more than 10,000 per month in a dorm account. So what I'm saying here, young people, that the future is unbounded. This whole issue of not having capital should not be what will stop us. If you have a very great idea, there are many, many, many avenues that people can fund you. And you could go to CC Hub in Lagos. You could go to Winnovation. There's just so many ways that once they see that what you are doing is cool, people will give you money. And then if they cannot, there are many hubs. In Federal University of Technology, for example, we contributed money and set up the Futo Hub in Ayaba. So if you're a graduate of Futo, you come to Lagos, you don't have any place to connect, you don't have any job. We said, okay, go to the hub. And what we have noticed there, that by the time they go to the hub, we also provide an opportunity for them to go there and do something. So just like that, they start doing projects. If I have somebody to build a software, I said, okay, let's go give it to the guys in Futo Hub. They do that, that gives them experience and they get a job. So but you have to be good to have that opportunity. That's the point I'm trying to make. There is capital, but there is something that activates capital, and that is knowledge. If you have that knowledge, I promise you that that capital will find you, because the geography of capital now is unbounded because of the internet. That's just what I'll try to say.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor Okekwe. I think that was a really, really lovely breakdown of this concern. Don't ever worry. You've got how many factors of production. You can leverage so many more with, even if you don't have money. It may be a slow start or a slower start than you imagine, but what good thing is ever that straightforward or easy? I think you just need to maybe I don't want to throw around that word resilient, be resilient, but you have to see things from fresh perspectives by talking to people, letting yourself understand different ways. So does anyone else want to jump in? I saw Engineer Sahid's thought here that note that big companies like NLNG will only invest in a venture that yields profit to them. And you have to understand that, of course, investors they're not just investing because they like the face or it's a fancy idea. They need to know that they're going to get a return on their investment, and that's great. You need to see that way and maybe go out of your comfort zone. You learn about costing. Give yourself that challenge to maybe learn a bit more about costing, learn a bit more about something. For me, my research trajectory goes into the areas where I feel, look, I've got a skill gap, like Mervyn said, and maybe I want to explore this a bit more. And you just find so many amazing opportunities. So does anyone else have anything to say? Thank you so much for that thought, Engineer Said.
So I also add a bit. So in my perspective, from what I've seen from the MBA, we actually have so many people who are looking for initiatives to give money. There's a lot of capital in the world. Exactly like Prof said, there's a lot of capital that is looking for people, ideas. Were you talking to me? No, I wasn't talking to you. All right. My kids are asking if I was talking to them.
That's a real boss. That's a real boss.
He is. You have impact investors who are willing to invest what they call patient capital. Because if you look at things like energy, right, you're not going to start getting your returns in another end of the year. These are things that require your capital to sit for 5, 7, 10 years. And there are impact investors who are willing to do that. There's CDC, there's Actis, right? There are so many different impact investors. There are even smaller people. Even here in Nigeria, we have ventures platforms. So people are looking for ideas to give money. Nobody wants to have their money sitting in the bank. How much interest does the bank pay? And if you look at the huge gap we have, I said Nigerians spend $14 billion annually on generators and petrol to fuel those generators. $14 billion is a lot of money. If you have an idea that will solve that problem, people will give you the money because it's a huge pot, right? So I don't think we should ever let capital be what stops us. Sit down, frame your idea, come up with ideas, talk to people, partner with the right people. Once you have it, in fact, you'll be beating off investors because they will now start saying, no, we want this amount of equity. And you'll be saying, no, I can't give you that amount of equity. You're the one that will be beating off investors. But at least get your things right, get your ducks in a row, get your competence top notch. And then you can always sell your idea to people who can provide you with the capital. And I just want to make a point that Kingsley put in the chat. Someone was talking about transferable skills, and Kingsley has put that in the chat. And I think it'd be really useful to send out to people so people can start thinking about what their what their transferable skills are.
Yeah, I think that's a really excellent point. Thank you so much, Osemen. And I think it's really nice to know that there's a world outside of the technical things you do. And you need to know that maybe if you think about investors, don't just think about it in the comfort of your own brain. Know what other opportunities there are. They're impact investors. You've got different kinds. And there are people doing things not because of a country's context, but because the world is such a global, it's a global world we've got now, and there are really no limits. But don't let that scare you. Let it help you think more creatively about your ideas. And those skill sets were amazing. I read through them and I was just saying, oh yes, check. And I think you should scroll through to have a look at what Kingsley said around a couple of minutes ago. So Mervyn, Engineer Saeed, I don't know if what you put in the chat is probably sufficient or you wanted to add something else. You said Shell invested in Afam power plant, but the transmission system was not able to wheel the power generated. And this is nice because even Professor Ikekwe mentioned something that it's the finance sector that thinks of different financial instruments that the energy systems and utilities. I don't think about energy in form of energy anymore, but think about it in terms of energy and utilities, because those are the people that will use it. You've got the upstream, you've got the downstream, and then every other person in the value chain. Think about what you can do, who you can partner with, who you can talk to, and let's see things moving. Let's go from that. I've forgotten the word that we used earlier, but it's really about just going beyond what the problems are in your context and exploring it a bit more. Does anyone have anything else to add before we just round up this panel session?
I thought they've done a great job to the question. So
indeed, thank you. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Mervyn. Thank you, Osemen. Thank you, Engineer Saeed, and thank you, Professor Ikekwe. I really love that. Osemen kept saying, be good. We need to think about being good ancestors. And those who have gone ahead of us are people who can help. I always say to myself, pass the baton, pass it on, pass on that baton. And we need to take the baton from people. You have to take ownership of your career, take ownership of the energy future in Nigeria, and let us pay that forward as well. That's what sustainability is all about. It's not just a nice word or a nice phrase, but reframe things in your head and go beyond what your course of study, what that title is. And let's just move past that disconnect from a roundtable discussion by using our actions to channel that into real life solutions. Thank you all so much. And I would like to hand over to Joshua, I think, for the next session, and he'll just give us announcements. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Tosin. So just before we have Joshua come on board, I would like to invite the program's chairperson for Port Harcourt section to give us the announcements. Hi, do we have Dr. Joseph here? Okay, while we wait for Dr. Joseph, I would like to take the opportunity to give a big appreciation to our sponsors, Western Diamond Nigeria Limited, Union Energy, and Livingstone Estates. Thank you so much for supporting this event. Thanks again to all our panelists and our panel moderator. We hope we delivered what we promised, and we hope the attendees really enjoyed the panel session. I sure did. Now over to you, Dr. Joseph.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to all the speakers. It's actually a wonderful presentation from everyone, particularly from Prof. That described Nigeria as a society of ideas without translation. So many think tanks without do tanks. Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm very grateful. The next, without wasting your time, I'll quickly give you some briefs on membership benefits. If you join SPE, you're bound to enjoy some professional development through. You also have the opportunity to network through meetings and events, technical communities, and reduced registration. And we'll have a lot of technical resources available through the JP store discounts, podcasts, and webinars. And when you are really involved in SPE activities, you are bound to get to council level. I will enjoin everyone to look for opportunity to join SPE because it's a very wonderful association to deal with. Next slide, please. Who can be a member of SPE? Depending on your level, you can be a student member, you can be a graduate member, you can also be a young professional and professional member. Earlier, you have strong industry connection, and you can also participate in live technical events like this, enhance industry knowledge, and so on. If you want to join SPE, you can quickly use this link provided in this slide. And below, you can also see the different resources through which you can get very useful information, like the Way Ahead, One Petrol, SP Care, Energy for Me, and so on and so forth. Next slide, please. We have a lot of upcoming events that have been put up in this section. One of it is the project Water for the Needy. It's an outreach, community outreach program from the section where the section plans to provide potable water for communities. And we would like everyone who has some interest in this project to participate by through donations to this group, so that we can actually provide these facilities for communities. Next slide. We're also going to have a virtual conference and exhibition from the HSSE group. And the theme of this event is preparing and responding to global pandemics, lessons learned and way forward. It's going to take place between 22nd of April and 23rd. So you can kindly contact, for participation, you can contact the SP Port Harcourt events sponsored by Gov, and we'll also have a media partner, HSC. Next slide. The next event we're expecting again is going to happen on 7th of May this year, and it's SDG 13 virtual town hall meeting. And the theme of this event is Defending Tomorrow, the Climate Crisis and Threats Against Land, Water Bodies, and Environment in Post-COVID Era. It's going to start at noon, 12 noon. So we'll also enjoin you to participate for this event. So you can register via the Zoom link provided in this slide. And another major event that is coming, forthcoming, is the Clean Energy and Artificial Intelligence. It's actually a STEM project. It's a very key event in this section, Annual Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics Fair. We have two categories of participation. We have the university category and the secondary school category. And there are a lot of things to grab. There are raffle draws. We are going to have quiz, Energy for Me, trainers program for secondary school teachers as well. So we'll have a lot of gifts and mind-blowing prizes up for grabs. So kindly key in. Submission deadline for this is 24th of April. And the program itself is going to start, commence on 15th of May 2020 at 12 p.m. So we're enjoying it to participate. Again, we're also expecting a golf tournament, an annual charity open golf tournament. This is coming up on the 22nd of May, 2021 at Python International Golf Club. Registration fee is 20,000. Please, golfers should try and encourage the section by participating in this event. Now, be sure you follow up our social media handles through the link provided. You can see SP at SP section 103.
All right, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for the announcements. Once again, thank you everyone for sticking with us all through. We've spent quite a while in this event. We hope it's been valuable to you. The event is coming to a close. After now, we would have a very brief closing remarks by the co-chair for this event that was responsible for putting this event together for about 2 minutes. Then for about 3 minutes, we would hear from the person who led the organization, the planning and execution of this event, the chairperson for this symposium, and we would be done. Afterwards, if you want to, we would like you to stick around for a post-event networking session. So we would put people randomly in breakout rooms, 4, 5, 10 people at a time. You can get to liaise with some of the people you've heard from, and you can join as many breakout rooms and network with as many people as you want. So that's coming in about 5 to 10 minutes. Again, you've been a wonderful audience, but we cannot, or we would hope to not let you go without having a picture of most of you who are willing to have your picture out there. So the SPE Port Harcourt Zoom accounts would be changing their view to a gallery view. So if you don't mind, if you can please turn on your video so we can capture you on the screenshots that would be taken. Again, these pictures would be posted on social media. So please ensure that you're comfortable with having your picture out there, and please turn on your video if you are. This would last about 1 minute or 2 minutes, and we would let you know when we're done. Thank you for your patience.
It would also be nice for people that are on with the video to smile. I like people smiling in our social media spaces. So kindly smile for us. Thank you. Okay, Simeon, are you there? That should be about 20 seconds now. We should not take more than 45 seconds for this. Why people are smiling? Naturally, I'm not sure people can smile more than a minute. So, so keep on smiling. Try, you can try for a minute, fine. Simeon, are we doing good with the pictures?
All right, so we'll be done. Countdown in 10 seconds. So if you can help us with your final
Do your
smiles.
final smiles. Your final smiles now, according to promise. That's the best you can do, okay? Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, everyone. You've been a wonderful audience. I can't say that enough. Over to you, Joshua, and then we would conclude with the vote of thanks by the chairperson of this entire symposium, Christine. Joshua, the virtual podium is yours.
Okay, wow. It's been an awesome event. Like, my note is full. There's so much to talk about, but because of time, keep it very brief. I just want to really thank all the speakers, key speaker, and the panel moderator as well for doing a very great job. It's been an engaging event from the start till now. We started off this event planning early this year, and when we were given the task to put this event together, it was like a mirage. We didn't really have a clear goal as to how to go about it. We just put some people together in the team, and then we started brainstorming to come up with a team and all planning. It was supposed to be a physical event. At some point, we decided to even make it a hybrid event, but all thanks to COVID and all the stuff that comes with it, we decided to go 100% virtual. And trust me, with how far we've gone today, it's been an amazing event. I just want to say thank you to all the participants. We're even worried that people were not going to turn up so much because of the fee we attached to it, but we actually thought it wise to put a fee so people will be committed to attending throughout the event, and the turnout was great thanks to the support of the section chairman. There are lots of knowledge that have been shared today by every speaker that has spoken today, lots of knowledge, and I believe as we go back, we would apply this knowledge base, and our thoughts have been provoked, and we'll go back to see how we can start putting these things to practice and make ourselves and our nation a better place. Thank you so very much. I'll introduce this event planning committee chairperson, which I'm closely working with. Her name is Christinoba Ulutu. She'll be giving us the formal vote of thanks now. Christine, you're up, please. Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, I can, Joseph.
Okay, so Christine, please go ahead with the vote of thanks.
Hi, do we have Christine?
Yes, I'm here. Sorry, I was muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Please go ahead.
In the words of Isaac Newton, if I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. You know, this statement proves itself specifically today, as young professionals would not have been able to put forward this very intellectual discourse and event, if not for the giants on whose shoulders we stand. Very distinguished senior members and directors of the SPE Section 103 board, the section chairman, programs chairman, our sponsors, our resourceful speakers and panelists, moderators, industry professionals, students, our most valued invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a privilege and an honor to have been asked to propose this vote of thanks on this occasion. I particularly like to begin by expressing my gratitude to the Almighty God, without whom this day would not have been a reality. I would like to thank the senior members and board of directors of the SPE Section 103 for gracing this event. The section chairman, in the person of Mr. Adebola Bada, who practically held our hands all through the planning stage and right till this very moment. The program's chair, the YP chairman, and all members of the YP Symposium committee who have worked tirelessly to ensure that this program was a success. I say a big thank you to our distinguished speakers and panelists. If you were ever in doubt, I am sure that you now know that the very best of industry professionals spoke to us today. Professor Undubisi Ekwekwe, thank you for making our time to speak, educate, and inspire young people. We are fired up and are ready to seize the opportunities harnessing Nigeria's energy mix brings us. I must mention our deep sense of appreciation for Engineer Said Olosho for his explanation of pivoting Nigeria from an energy focus to an energy mix, the what, the how, and the when. Further, we are grateful to Melvin Azeta for demonstrating in her speech that human capital development and policy are indeed drivers for harnessing Nigeria's energy mix. I also like to express our sincere thanks to Osemen Okenyi for giving us an excellent coverage and her analysis on the address, deploying renewable energy at scale, global lessons, local implementation. We express our gratitude to our sponsors who prove their love and support for SPE over and over again. The Livingstone Group, Union Energy, and Diamond Energy, we cannot thank you enough. For all our participants who took out time to register for the event and have stayed up till this very moment, say thank you. To our students, the YPs of tomorrow, thank you. Because I am only human, I sincerely apologize for any names I may have omitted. It is not in any way intentional. As long as you can hear my voice right now, I, Christine Oba Olotu, Chairperson of the committee, on behalf of the YP Symposium Committee 2021, we say thank you for making this event a success. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Christine, for that. There's nothing more I can say beyond what Christine has said. Thank you, everyone. We really appreciate you. It's been a wonderful time spent anchoring this event with Dorcas supporting. We can't appreciate you all enough. Just to give you a guide of what's happening now, in the next couple of seconds, I will officially close the event by the powers vested in me, by Christine. After that is done, the event would still be ongoing. But at that point in time, we would only be having our post-networking session. So what would happen is a lot of breakout rooms would be created. We would keep it to a maximum of 5 people in a room. And why we're doing that is so there can be maximum interactions. When you go into that room, you would have 5 minutes to say hi to the people in the room with you. You'll be in the room with a random set of people. When you are done, while you're in the room, you would see a notice telling you that the room would be closed in 60 seconds, 30 seconds, whatever the case may be. When that happens, you would be returned back to the main room or to the main lobby. If you want to network with more people, you would be sent to a different room to spend another 5 minutes with a new set of people. And we encourage you to stay and do that. Who knows, you might find yourself in a room with Professor Undubuisi or Semen or Engineer Sahid or Mervin or Tosin. And just to state as a disclaimer, for this first round of networking, if we still have our speakers here, all our speakers would be together in a room. So we would have our 4 speakers and Tosin in one room in case they want to network with each other on a jovial note and not asking each other about wind and solar energy. So thank you very much for attending the event. You've been a fantastic audience. We hope you continue this conversation beyond now. Connect with people here, connect with people on LinkedIn, continue the conversations at your workplace, stay inspired. Thank you and have a great weekend.
Thank you. Promise, that was wonderful closing. Also, just to drag your attention, our Kahoot winners, are we doing that afterwards or we're taking care of that now?
Thank you. I'm so sorry, I forgot. Tosin, if you are here, you are supposed to give us a name. I don't know if you remember if you took any notes.
I did take some notes, but I didn't get to pick every single one. That there were some that stood out to me, but that would be like really biased because some people had so many interesting. Do you have the results? If you have your Kahoot,
so I have the results for 3 winners. So whoever BASB, Lord Pepple, and Lupin, whoever you are, you can send a message to the chat stating your real names. So 3 of you are our winners. In terms of the first person to join was Boykem. So Boykem, send me your name to the chat. So that's 4 people. Tosin, the first name that comes to your mind for most creative username.
I'll be really biased because that's for me, and maybe it won't be the most creative.
Okay.
I had two runner-ups were Solar Fix and Net Zero. But I remember there was one other one. I feel really bad because you put me on the spot there.
No, that's fine. I'm sorry. I would have gone with Tatashe or Wellhead, and that would have been my personal opinion.
Wellhead was a really nice one. I think everyone can relate. Yeah, Wellhead it is then.
Okay. So Wellhead, BASB, Lord Pepple, Lupin, and Boykem, before you join your breakout room, please send us your name so we can get your prizes to you. So the breakout sessions are currently ongoing. please join your rooms, network with people, come back here if you want to speak with more people, and we'll keep on sending you to different rooms. Thanks.
Lord Purple has actually dropped his already, so you can pick it up, promise.
So, Dorcas, how are you doing for the students? You know how to handle that?
Yes, I'm waiting for Mr. Kennedy he is supposed to provide me the names because he kept track of them.
Okay, so Kennedy, are you in the house? Okay, sit down with Kennedy. I'm very sure you must have been monitoring the students. Huh?
Okay, sir, sure.
So work with Kennedy, because the students are very important for me. We need to give them that time.
Yes, especially for a 4-hour section.
Please. Okay, please. Thank you. Thank you, Tosin. Thank you so much, all the speakers. Thank you, Tosin, for moderating. I like the moderation. It's nice. And then for Promise, thank you so much. And Dorcas, thank you. Really appreciate it. Well done.
You're welcome, sir. Thank you for the opportunity too.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, Essie, sorry. Initially, I was muted. Good day all. So for the students, they've been asked to send me their details in my DM, not on the general chat box. Okay, so students, send me your name, your school, your phone number, and the network. So just kindly send that to my DM, and you get your letter much later. Thank you.
You know, Mr. Kennedy,
Okay.
they're breaking out rooms now. Are you sure they can still hear the instruction?
Well, the instruction was there initially for them to see on the chat box. I asked Emmanuel to do that. So, but even if they don't send that, I still have I have a track of the attendance, so I can also get it from there.
Okay.